If you think investing is hard, try being broke. That is even harder. So staying broke is so painful, but so is the discipline of investing. And the difference, one builds up your future and the other does not. Every dollar you choose not to invest is a dollar spent staying exactly where you are. No growth, no progress, and we all know that investing requires patience, risk, restraint, but staying broke means giving up on opportunities altogether. So the question isn't if you're going to face hardship, it's which hardship will you choose? So are you choosing the pain of progress or the comfort of regret? So let's go. So let's start here. I've been broke too, and it's not very fun. And here is why. The constant stress and anxiety if your financial stability situation is horrible. It leads to stress. It leads to every day wondering, how am I going to pay my expenses and bills? And many people just feel overwhelmed knowing that an unexpected expense like a medical bill or a car repair could create a crisis. Something you don't want to have to worry about every night you go to bed is, how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to pay my bills? So being broke can prevent people from accessing opportunities that lead to better jobs, better education, and personal growth. So in my career, I've had many opportunities to go to lots of different events, lots of different functions, and I got to learn a lot of things that were advanced tools, networking events, courses, certifications, things that required me to pay for them to go to, but in the long term were able to help me make more money, and then at some point were able to help benefit me from not having to worry about living paycheck to paycheck. But if you can't afford to go to these events or get around rooms of people that are at, let's say, a level higher than you are financially, it makes it really difficult to start to try to get ahead of the game. I go look for someone who's living the lifestyle I want to live, or maybe is doing things financially I want to do, and if you can't get around those people, it just makes things really challenging for yourself. If you have a lack of savings for emergencies, so if you don't have some sort of financial cushion, even a minor emergency can seem devastating. So you want to have that emergency set up so you can have not feeling of constant worry about, oh, I'm super vulnerable financially right now, and if I can't make a little extra money and my car breaks down, now I'm paying for things on a credit card. So you don't want an unexpected expense to force you into debt again, and that's why we got to get these debts paid off and make sure that we build up some reserves, so then that we're not having to worry about things, especially if you're someone who's really broke and now you're worried about, how am I even going to pay for food or for rent? So without a financial buffer, many people turn to credit cards, payday lenders, some sort of personal loan, which these always come with really high interest rates. And over time, this debt can spiral, making it even harder to escape the cycle of being broke, because when you're paying 10, 15, 20+% at an interest rate, it really makes things hard to come around the other direction. If you're in a high yield savings account or trying to manage your stock portfolio, typically if you're making 10% on that end, you're doing really well. So it's really hard to offset if you're paying interest rates well over the 10% range. Studies will show that financial hardship often correlates with poor physical and mental health. The stress of financial struggles can lead to anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues due to lack of access to healthy food, preventative care, and medical services. Because Lord knows, if I can't afford to pay for food this week, why am I going to figure out a way to try to go to the doctor when it's just something else I got to pay for that I can't afford? So the experience of being broke, and I was there, can lead to feelings of helplessness, frustration, and low self-worth. And it's common for people to feel as if they fail or they don't deserve a better life, which can have a lasting impact on, again, your mental health and your motivation. So as an example, I've been a real estate agent for 25 years, and when that whole 2006, 7, 8, 9 timeframe came in and everybody was doing foreclosures and short sales and losing their houses, that was a time where I literally went 10 months and I barely sold a house and my income almost disappeared. And all the agents and the realtors in our company, same boat. So all of a sudden we went from having all the things we're talking about, reserves, a house that we lived in, plenty of money and not a whole lot of worry, to all of a sudden here we were 10 years later and we were on the brink of literally losing our house. I was not going to make my house payment, and I was having a real messy situation right there. My kids were little. We were in our late 30s. A lot of things we've already mentioned, talked about in this video, I just felt horrible about, because I thought, here we are pushing towards 40 years old and I'm literally going to go bankrupt and have to start from scratch. So I know what it feels like to be in that financially bad situation. And of course, now I'm in a much better place. But when I'm talking about these things, I know from personal experience. I was there with you. And when we're talking debt, I'm talking like $750,000 worth of debt that then took us a decade plus to turn that whole thing around. And luckily for me, the last 10 or 15 years, the real estate business has been really well. It was a slow grind to get myself to where I am now. So when finances are tight, people often have to sacrifice basics. You might skip meals so your kids can eat. You avoid the healthcare visits. You don't repair or maintain your car or your home because you feel like, hey, I can't afford to do these things. And this constant scarcity mindset can make daily life feel really exhausting. If you're broke, it limits your ability to plan for the long term, like buying a home or starting a family or someday even retiring, when that lack of control can make the future seem uncertain, when you're just trying to figure out how am I going to get to Friday instead of worrying about what's going to happen 6, 12 months or 10 years from now. So it's something you have to be really cautious about. But as we can create these better financial situations, it makes life so much easier to plan for the future and knowing that if something minor comes up, it's not going to be the end of the world. Financial struggles can cause embarrassment or shame and leading many people to avoid social situations where they're going to feel judged. And this isolation can result in fewer social connections and a lack of support from family and friends, which goes right back to the fact that you don't have access to people that maybe are already doing what it is that you want to do financially, but now you're embarrassed to go talk to these people because maybe you're wearing old clothes or you just got fired from a job or just your whole situation isn't really that amazing. So for many, giving back to your family or friends, to your community, to your church. When your finances are tight, you don't feel you're able to support those entities, the loved ones in your family. Maybe you're a parent and you're supposed to be paying for your kid to go to college or school and you can't afford to do those things. So you feel inadequate, you feel guilty. You feel like, hey, as a parent, you always just want the next generation to be better off than you were. And if financially you went backwards from, say, where your parents were, it feels really challenging and difficult sometimes on where you are. If you're someone who's starting on your journey to financial freedom, go to the website and click on the link to get our top 11 reasons that you need to follow to start your journey to financial freedom. Flip the script. Why is investing hard? And the reason it's hard is they try to make it complex and the learning curve difficult. And investing does involve some basic understanding of financial markets and economic indicators and a range of different options that you can choose from, whether it's stocks, bonds, real estate, crypto. There's lots of things you need to learn and it can seem overwhelming. But for most people, and if we were doing just basic investing, it is not nearly as complicated as you can, feel that it would be. And of course, when you're doing investing and you came from a bad situation, you always feel like, hey, I might lose money. I don't want my investments to go down in value. And that can feel intimidating, but market volatility is going to happen and economic shifts happen. And in the short term, you see the stock market bump up and down. But if you play the long game, which I always talk about the long game, and whether it is in the stock market, whether it is in real estate, these uncertainties get more spread out. If you go look over the long haul, it's very rare for a 10-year period to have the stock market be down or have real estate be down. In the short term, a lot of things can happen, but over the long haul, that's not going to be the case. And again, go back to that 7, 8, 9 time frame when house prices were half. I mean, I had a house that went from 300 to 600 back to 300. Well, yeah, that same house, I haven't lived in it now for 10 years, just sold recently in my area for almost $850,000. So if I would have kept that house this whole time, 20 plus years, a house I paid $300 for would have sold for $850. And that's a lot of money to be able to make on a residential real estate transaction. So your fear of losing money, your fear of looking for information that just confirms your beliefs, you have to be careful with that. And even though investing is, can be hard, it doesn't need to be. So don't let your biases or your concerns or your fears make you do impulsive decision making. So like when all of a sudden the housing market, the stock market goes down, I know a lot of people that if they would have just stayed in the game and played the long term, they would have won, but they got scared in the short term, they sold off. And then when the market came back around, they did not get a chance to win and they kept themselves in a really poor financial situation because of it. So don't let these things scare you away. Investing requires patience and a willingness to wait for growth over years, if not decades. So this is a long game. Our natural inclination is for immediate rewards, win right now. And it makes it difficult for some people to prioritize long-term versus short-term, but you've got to play the long-term. Don't look at your statement every month. Don't look at it all the time and just know when you start off and it feels like it's maybe only $5 or $10 or $50,000, that someday down the road, as that rule of 72 and that money keeps doubling, there'll be a lot of money there someday. And there are many low-cost investment options. You don't need a lot of money to start. And some people feel weird that they're only starting off with $1,000 or $500. If you put a portion of your income into these investments every month, doesn't matter if you're making low wages, doesn't matter if it's small dollar amount, it just takes time. So let it grow and don't worry about it if it doesn't feel like a lot of money at first. Why investing is essential for financial freedom? Growth through compounding. And if you don't understand how compounding works, you need to make sure you look up that definition. It's where investments over time generate income and the income stays within the account. So now the income from that account staying, you're putting more money in there, you're reinvesting the returns in there, which is key to achieving financial freedom. So for example, an annual return can grow substantially over decades. One of the industries that has the highest amount of dollars in retirement are teachers because they consistently put money in their account, that over that long haul of their career, it's amazing how much money they get. And they didn't make hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s a year as teachers. So you have to remember, inflation, when it goes up, that dollar every year becomes less and less valuable. So you have to figure out ways to earn more in interest than what your inflation is going to be. So cash savings loses value over time, and investing in assets that typically outpace inflation, like stocks or real estate, that's how you're going to preserve and grow your wealth, so that if you have $100,000 now, $100,000 10 years from now is not going to buy you as much stuff. So you got to figure out a way to make that 100 turn into 150 so that over the long haul, you're going to end up with just as much purchasing power as you would have now. And I don't like the word passive income generation, but over time, investments like stocks, bonds, rental property generate money. And what I mean by passive is you're not trading your time for money. You're not having to go punch the clock to earn a revenue. You're basically having assets earning money. So that earning is passive, but it's crucial that you're involved in these decisions because your financial freedom, because it allows individuals to cover their expenses without relying on a job. So the idea of retirement one day is you build up a big enough asset base that is generating enough income for you to live your life without working anymore. And that's the whole point of all of this, is to play that long-term game, but you got to understand how that works. Some people are going to get small dollar amounts for Social Security or pensions, but they may not cover all your expenses. So investing, buying rental property, finding ways to generate that extra passive income is going to be huge. So unlike traditional savings or a regular investing account, you need to have some diversification. So for example, for myself, between rental homes, a property management business, a commercial building, my 401k plan, an IRA, at one point it was a self-employment IRA, they all basically do the same thing, but you have to be disciplined about it and you have to do it every month consistently so that one day, even if you never earned a high income, you can build up a significant wealth and creating that security and freedom that you're trying to pursue so that someday if you continue to work, you're doing it because you enjoy working and you're not doing it because you have to work. And nothing drives me more crazy when I see someone who's 70 plus years old at a job somewhere and you think, boy, I hope they're doing this just to give them something to do versus they need the income from that. So while financial investing is challenging due to the learning curve, the risk, the need for patience, and the fact that this could be a 30, 50, 60-year game, it is the most effective way to path through financial freedom. And if you're thinking about it properly and you do strategic investing, you can achieve long-term growth, you can offset inflation, and you can build up those multiple income streams that are going to enable you to feel more secure, and you're going to be able to feel great about your financial situation when it's time to stop working. So if you're someone who's thinking about starting your financial journey, check out this video we did about your money reality. It's the place you need to begin so that you can start on your financial freedom journey to getting yourself set up for retirement.